Safety. It's a big thing in the workshop. If you don't feel safe doing something or you just don't feel comfortable, don't do it. You're the only person who can keep you safe. And if you don't do it, no one else can.
Oh, a loser!
Hi friends, fellow woodturners. Richard Ford here, coming to you from Nova Scotia, Canada.
We have a winner, and this is the old-fashioned one with no special end on it. Well, welcome to my shop. I expect from that little intro there, you guessed that today's session is going to be on spinning tops, and I'm going to show you how I make my Marbelous spinning tops. Now, I call them marvelous because the spinning top actually has a marble in the top, right here. So, to start, you need a piece of wood that's maybe 2.5 to 3 inches or even bigger diameter and 4 inches long. And I turn it face off the ends, which leaves a little center point at each end where the drive center or the tailstock has been. And then I put it on my drill press and I drill a hole in it which is about a 32nd larger than the diameter of the marble. And I drill it deep enough that the center of the marble comes down about 1/8 of an inch below the surface here. So the marble is more than halfway in. Then I put 2-part epoxy in the hole and just push the marble in, set it aside to dry. Now, when it's dry, what you sometimes find is that the epoxy has come up the side of the marble a little bit, and you need to just take a sharp knife and clean off the top, scrape down any of that epoxy that has got on the marble and clean off the surface of the marble. Now, when you turn any top, it's very important that the pivot point runs very true to the body of your spinning top, because the truer it is, the smoother it will run, and when it runs smoothly, it runs longer. So in order to mount this in the lathe, you have to have something to drive this while you turn it, and you need to center the marble. So one of the tools you have to make is this little MT2 driver. So it's an MT2 taper, and it has a recess in the end, and you can see this one has been burnt by the marble fitting into it. And you mount this in your headstock, and then you mount this in it, and you can see that when it drives it, this is going to be very true to the center of your lathe. So you mount it like this in the headstock, and the little dimple that you have from when you turn this you use for your tailstock. and you drive it and you turn your spinning top. So you're going to need to make one of these unless you happen to have one. And this is a piece of ash, but it can be any wood. I prefer hardwood. And this is a little piece of oak, this little drive center. So now, to make this little driver, you need a piece of hardwood. I have used oak for it. And you start with a piece of oak that is 1 inch square, 4 1/4 inches long. You put a cross on the end, mark the center, cross on the other end, mark the center. We're going to turn this between centers. So it is 4 1/4 inches long. And in order to make a Morse taper, I'm not sure how this is going to show up on the camera, but I have a little instruction sheet I made here, and it shows that on one end you turn it down to 3/4 inch diameter in 1.5 inches, and on the other end you turn it down to 5/8 inch diameter in 1/4 inch. Now the important dimensions are the 2.5 inches between those two shoulders, and the diameter in at this shoulder and the diameter in at this shoulder. Because the Morse taper is determined by coming from that shoulder to that shoulder. Now, okay, so we start with that little piece of 1 inch block, and we'll turn, we're going to turn one of these, and I'll show you how I make it. It might get a little clearer then. The handle is in my case, here's a piece of oak as well. I had some oak. A neighbor gave me a couple of old stair runners. Well, they were new really, that he bought and he didn't need. They were extra to his stairs. So it's beautiful oak, and this is an ideal application where I'm using something that was really left over from a job and was scrap, so to speak, and we're turning it into nice little toys. So for the handle, I start with a piece 5 inches long. It's 1 inch this way, and it's 1 3/8 inches this way. I come up from one end 1 inch, and what I do is I come up 1 inch, and in the center of the 1 inch here I drill a 1/8 hole all the way through, and in the center of the 1 3/8 I drill a hole all the way through. So that's 1 inch up, 1 inch up. Now I drill the hole all the way through because that helps when you drill it out to a larger size. It helps because what you can do is drill your 3/8 hole, and what I'll do is I'll drill the 3/8 hole down halfway. Then I'll turn this over, and I'll drill the 3/8 hole down till it meets the other one and all the way through. So what that stops is getting kind of splintering and of the drill coming through the bottom. You can see these holes are very clear. And I do the same with a Forstner bit. With this hole, I drill halfway down, turn the block over, drill the rest of the way down and all the way through. And again, it prevents any amount of splintering. If you're gentle, you know, break through gently. Okay, so now we have the basis for the handle, and you can see that here we have the 3/8 hole, and if we turn it around, we have the 1 inch hole. And so, just as it is now, it would actually work, and you could put your top in it, and put the string through the little hole here, wind it up, and away you go. But we want to turn this and make it nice for little hands to hold. So we spoke about the top, spoke about the handle. The third and last component of the top is a little pull string. Now, the pull string length, I would suggest that you make it suitable for yourself, unless you know who it's for. But you have to remember, if it's just a little person that's going to be pulling this, maybe a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, their ability to pull is determined by the length of their arms. So they won't need as long a string as you need. So you'll just cut the string off to size it to suit the person who's going to use it. So it's just a little dowel, just turned between centers with a radius on the ends and a little groove in the middle and a string tied on it there. How can I focus that? I don't know if I can focus that knot. There we go. A string tied on it and cut to a suitable length. So that's the 3 components. So I'm going to move the camera now, and I'm going to turn this on my little Delta lathe. I tend to use my Delta lathe for these little fun projects. They're great skill builders, really good skill builders, and they're a lot of fun. It's like making bottle stoppers or something like that. You just have fun. Every one you make, if you're having fun, is going to be a different shape. And the handles can be decorated. And see, this one I put a little color on, but you could chatter on them. You have to remember they're for little hands too. You know, little hands, make them the appropriate size. The little hands can hold them. Okay guys, well I'm going to move the camera and we'll carry on, and first thing we're going to do is turn that driver, the MT2 driver.